Arrival of the healers. The sky above Deathworld was always a strange mix of swirling clouds and violent weather. To any outsider, it was a hostile planet, a place where life seemed impossible. But for the humans who lived there, this world was home. They had adapted, learned, and survived through sheer strength and will. The people of Deathworld were known across the galaxy as tough, unbreakable, and incredibly resourceful. It was on this day that a fleet of alien ships descended through the thick clouds, their sleek, metallic forms cutting through the stormy skies. These were not warships but medical vessels from the highly advanced Arcranian race. The Arcranians were known for their superior medical technology, capable of curing nearly any disease and healing even the most severe injuries. They had cured countless species across the stars, and now they had come to Deathworld, certain that their technology could help the struggling humans. The leader of the medical fleet, Dr. Vellner, stood tall on the deck of his ship, gazing out at the rough landscape below. His blue skin shimmered under the ship's lights as he turned to his team of doctors and nurses. They were all confident, calm, and ready to help. "We will show these humans the power of our medical science," Vellner said with pride. "Their world may be dangerous, but our technology can overcome any challenge." The ships touched down on the rough, rocky terrain of Deathworld. The landing was not smooth. Nothing on this planet ever was. As soon as the doors of the ships opened, the harsh winds whipped around the alien doctors, stinging their faces and rattling their equipment. The air was thick with dust, and the temperature was far colder than they had anticipated. A group of Deathworlders stood waiting. They were tall, strong, and wrapped in thick, rugged clothing to protect themselves from the cold. Their leader, a woman named Kara, stepped forward. Her sharp green eyes studied the alien doctors carefully. She was not impressed by their shiny equipment or their pristine white uniforms. These aliens had no idea what they were up against. "We heard you're here to help," Kara said, her voice low and firm. "But I'll be honest, we've survived here for generations. Your fancy tools and machines don't mean much on Deathworld." Dr. Vellner smiled politely, but there was a hint of arrogance in his expression. "We understand your hesitation, but we've cured entire planets of diseases far more dangerous than what you face here. With our technology, we can make your people healthier, stronger, and safer. You won't have to struggle anymore." Kara raised an eyebrow. "Struggle is what keeps us alive. But go ahead, try your best." The humans led the alien doctors into the heart of their settlement, a place made of stone and metal, built to withstand the violent storms that constantly tore through the planet. Inside, the medical teams got to work. Their equipment was advanced beyond anything the Deathworlders had seen. Machines that could scan the human body in seconds, robots that performed surgery with perfect precision, and devices that could cure most illnesses with a simple injection. The Arcranians began treating the sick and injured immediately, confident that their technology would work wonders. They scanned for infections, healed broken bones, and administered treatments to those suffering from strange illnesses that had developed on this harsh planet. But something strange began to happen. The treatments didn't work as expected. The machines struggled to read the complex biology of the Deathworlders. The injections didn't heal as quickly as they should have. In some cases, the conditions worsened. Dr. Vellner and his team were baffled. They had never encountered a species whose biology resisted their treatments. "These humans," Vellner muttered under his breath, "they are more complicated than we thought." Kara watched the doctors with crossed arms, a small smirk on her face. "We told you. Deathworld isn't like the other places you've been." The alien doctors worked late into the night, trying to figure out what was going wrong. Their equipment began to malfunction in the rough atmosphere of the planet. The intense magnetic storms interfered with their scanners, and the cold weather made their delicate machines break down. The Deathworlders, on the other hand, continued to use their own methods, simple but effective. Kara took the opportunity to show the aliens how her people had survived for so long. She led them to a large hut where the elders were treating a man who had been injured in a rockslide. The humans were using local plants, boiled into a thick paste, to treat his wounds. The process was slow, but it was working. The man's condition was improving, and the infection was fading. "We've learned how to live with this world," Kara explained. "It's not about fighting it. It's about adapting. You can have all the fancy tools you want, but on Deathworld, the planet has the final say." Dr. Vellner watched in silence, his pride wounded. For the first time in his career, he faced the reality that his technology might not be enough. This was only the beginning of their struggle on Deathworld, and the humans were far more resilient than they had ever imagined. Failure of advanced medicine. As the days passed on Deathworld, Dr. Vellner and his team faced mounting challenges. Each time they tried to use their advanced medical technology, they found themselves thwarted by the planet's harsh conditions and the unique biology of the Deathworlders. Vellner's confidence began to fade, replaced by frustration. The alien doctors were accustomed to solving problems swiftly, but here, they were met with resistance at every turn. The alien medics gathered in the main medical bay, surrounded by equipment that was meant to heal, but instead seemed to mock their efforts. Machines that once hummed with efficiency now sat silent and dark. Vellner rubbed his temples as he examined the latest patient, a young Deathworlder named Jalen who had developed a severe fever. They had administered a treatment that had worked wonders on other species, but here it seemed to have no effect. "This is unacceptable," Vellner exclaimed, his blue skin glistening with the sweat of anxiety. "Our technology is the best in the galaxy. Why can't we help these people?" A nurse named Lyra spoke up. "Doctor, perhaps it is their biology. We may need to understand their genetics better before applying our treatments. They're not responding as we expect." Vellner shook his head, his pride refusing to accept the idea. "No, it must be something else. Our equipment should be able to read them. We just need to adjust our settings." They spent hours making adjustments, but each attempt resulted in the same disappointing outcomes. Day by day, more Deathworlders fell ill, and Vellner could feel the weight of their despair. The alien medics began to murmur among themselves, doubts creeping into their minds. They were used to success, not failure. Meanwhile, the Deathworlders, led by Kara, continued their own efforts to heal their sick. They relied on ancient remedies, gathering herbs and plants that had been used for centuries. While the aliens struggled with complex machines, the humans moved with a calm determination, demonstrating the simple yet effective ways they had learned to survive on their harsh planet. Kara watched as the alien doctors worked tirelessly, their frustration evident. She couldn't help but feel a mix of sympathy and amusement. The aliens had come to save them, but now they seemed lost in their efforts. As the humans treated their own, they whispered stories of their ancestors, tales of survival, resilience, and the strength of their community. One evening, Kara approached Vellner while he examined Jalen. "You can't just fix us with machines," she said gently. "We've been living on this world for generations. We know how to heal ourselves. Your technology is impressive, but it's not enough." Vellner looked up, his eyes filled with a mixture of frustration and curiosity. "But why? Why does your biology resist our treatments? We can cure other species with ease." Kara crossed her arms, her expression thoughtful. "We've adapted to this planet. Our bodies are different because we live with the danger every day. You may have advanced technology, but you don't know our ways. Maybe you should learn from us instead of trying to change us." Vellner hesitated, unsure of how to respond. For the first time, he felt the cracks in his confidence. He had always believed in the superiority of his people's technology. But now, standing in the dim light of the medical bay, he was faced with the reality that their methods might not work here. Despite Kara's advice, Vellner pushed forward with his plans. He called for a meeting with the other doctors, determined to find a solution. "We need to conduct more tests. We must find a way to penetrate their biology and understand why our treatments are failing," he insisted, his voice rising. His colleagues exchanged worried glances, "But doctor," one of them replied, "we've already tried numerous methods. It's clear that something fundamental is different." Frustrated, Vellner dismissed their concerns. "We will not fail. We are Arcranians. We have cured entire planets. We just need to try harder." But as the days wore on, it became evident that their technology was not going to save the Deathworlders. Many patients continued to worsen, and the alien medics found themselves overwhelmed with despair. With each failure, their hope dwindled. One day, as Vellner stood alone in the medical bay, he felt a sharp pang of doubt. He recalled the elders' tales of resilience, stories Kara had shared with him. It was then he realized they had become so wrapped up in their pride that they had ignored the very essence of survival, their connection to the planet and its ways. That evening, he found Kara preparing herbal mixtures in the settlement's community center. Intrigued, he stepped forward, wanting to learn. "What are you doing?" he asked. Kara looked up, surprised but pleased. "I'm making a poultice for the sick. It helps reduce fever and speeds up healing." "Can I help?" Vellner asked, his voice softer now, no longer filled with arrogance but curiosity. She nodded, and as they worked together, he began to understand. Kara explained the properties of each plant, how they grew in the harsh conditions, and how their people had learned to use them over generations. Vellner listened, fascinated by the simplicity and effectiveness of their methods. In that moment, something shifted within him. He realized that to truly help, they needed to combine their knowledge. The alien medics had advanced technology, but the Deathworlders had a profound understanding of their own bodies and the environment. Together, they could create a new way to heal. As they finished their work, Vellner looked into Kara's eyes and said, "I'm ready to learn from you." This simple acknowledgement was the first step toward bridging the gap between their worlds. Vellner had finally embraced the idea that technology and tradition could coexist, and perhaps, just perhaps, they could work together to heal the sick. The real challenge was just beginning. The blend of knowledge. As the sun rose over the Deathworld, the air buzzed with a sense of renewed purpose. Vellner and Kara worked side by side, their collaboration signaling a shift in their approach to healing. The alien doctor was no longer just an outsider trying to fix things. He was becoming part of the community. In the days that followed, Vellner immersed himself in the ways of the Deathworlders. He spent hours with Kara and her fellow villagers, learning about the plants and herbs that flourished in their unforgiving environment. The Deathworlders, who had once viewed the aliens with skepticism, began to see Vellner as an ally. He was eager to understand their traditions and customs, and in return, they taught him how to make salves, teas, and poultices that had been used for generations. "Here, this is the root of the Elanti plant," Kara explained one day, holding up a knobby brown root. "It helps reduce inflammation. We can mix it with the leaf of the hell shrub to create a powerful remedy for fevers." Vellner nodded, taking notes on his datapad. "I can analyze these compounds to see if they interact with our treatments. If we blend our knowledge, we might find a solution that works for everyone." Kara smiled, impressed by his enthusiasm. She could see that he was truly invested in their well-being, and it strengthened her resolve to help him succeed. "Let's gather more plants. The more we have, the better our chances." As they collected herbs, Vellner noticed how the villagers worked together. Children laughed and played nearby, while the adults engaged in friendly chatter. The warmth of their community was infectious, and for the first time, he felt a genuine sense of belonging. He realized that this place, once so foreign, had become a second home. In the evenings, the villagers gathered around a fire, sharing stories of their ancestors. Vellner listened intently, captivated by tales of bravery and resilience. The stories weren't just about survival. They spoke of unity and the power of working together in the face of adversity. Inspired, he began to share stories of his own people, how they had faced challenges in their past and emerged stronger. As their bond deepened, Vellner and Kara started experimenting with their combined knowledge. They created a new treatment, blending advanced medical technology with traditional remedies. Vellner carefully calibrated his equipment to analyze the compounds Kara had gathered, creating a serum that could potentially address the unique ailments of the Deathworlders. One afternoon, they decided to test their new serum on Jalen, the young Deathworlder who had been battling a relentless fever. The villagers watched with bated breath as Vellner prepared the injection, a mix of hope and fear swirling in the air. "Are you ready, Jalen?" Vellner asked, looking into the boy's eyes. The young Deathworlder nodded, determination shining through his pain. With a gentle hand, Vellner administered the serum. Everyone held their breath, waiting for a response. Moments felt like hours as Jalen's body reacted. Slowly, the fever began to subside. His skin, once hot and flushed, returned to a normal color. The villagers erupted in cheers, disbelief mixing with joy. Vellner felt a surge of pride and relief wash over him. "This is just the beginning," Kara said, her eyes gleaming. "We can save so many more if we keep working together." Encouraged by their success, Vellner and Kara set out to treat more patients. Each time they administered their new blend, they observed how the Deathworlders' bodies responded. They fine-tuned their treatments based on feedback and results, making adjustments and learning with each passing day. But not everyone was pleased with this new approach. Some of the alien medics, led by Dr. Xalon, were skeptical. "We are wasting our time. We should be focusing on our technology instead of getting lost in these primitive methods," he argued during a meeting. "We must stick to our superior techniques." Vellner felt a surge of anger, but tempered it with calm. "Dr. Xalon, our technology is remarkable, but it's not working here. We need to adapt to the unique circumstances of this planet. The Deathworlders have survived here for generations. We should honor their knowledge, not dismiss it." Xalon scowled, but did not respond. Vellner's words hung heavy in the air, forcing the other medics to consider the reality of their situation. While they debated, Kara watched quietly, sensing the tension but also the potential for change. Days turned into weeks, and Vellner and Kara continued to make strides in their treatments. They developed a regimen that combined the Deathworlders' herbal medicine with advanced alien technology. The villagers began to see improvements in their health, and the fear that had once gripped the community began to fade. One night, as they sat around the fire, Kara turned to Vellner. "I'm grateful for everything you've brought to us. Your willingness to learn and adapt has saved lives." Vellner smiled, warmth flooding his chest. "And I'm thankful for your guidance. Without your knowledge, we wouldn't have been able to achieve this. Together, we are stronger." As they exchanged ideas and knowledge, a sense of unity blossomed between the aliens and the Deathworlders. It was no longer a matter of advanced technology versus traditional methods. They were creating something new together. With each success, Vellner's faith in the alliance grew. He realized that healing was not just about medicine. It was about understanding, respect, and the willingness to listen. As the fire crackled, he knew they were on the right path. But challenges still lay ahead. Would their combined efforts be enough to face the greater dangers that awaited them? Only time would tell. The rising threat. As the alliance between Vellner and the Deathworlders grew stronger, a shadow loomed over their newfound unity. Reports of a mysterious illness began to circulate in the nearby villages, affecting both the Deathworlders and the alien medics. Whispers of panic spread like wildfire, and the community once filled with hope now faced uncertainty. Vellner stood with Kara in the village square, surrounded by anxious villagers. "We must investigate this illness," he urged, his voice steady despite the growing worry around him. "If we can understand it, we can develop a treatment." Kara nodded, determination shining in her eyes. "Let's start by gathering information from the affected villages. We need to see what symptoms they're experiencing and how quickly the illness spreads." The two of them set out on a journey to the nearest village, a place once vibrant but now eerily silent. As they approached, they could see the signs of the illness: abandoned homes, people lying weakly on the ground, and the air thick with fear. Villagers peeked out from behind doors, their eyes filled with dread. "Stay close," Vellner instructed, feeling the weight of the situation. They moved cautiously through the village, stopping at the first house they encountered. A woman lay on a straw mat, her skin pale and clammy. Kara knelt beside her, checking for signs of the illness. "What's happening?" The woman croaked, her voice barely above a whisper. "We don't know what's wrong. It came on suddenly." Vellner took out his scanner, carefully examining the woman's vital signs. "Your body is fighting something. We need to understand how this illness spreads. Have others in the village experienced similar symptoms?" The woman nodded weakly. "Many of us are sick. It feels like a fever at first, but then it changes. We become weak, and some lose their ability to move." With this crucial information, Vellner and Kara continued their investigation, moving from house to house, collecting data. They learned that the illness seemed to spread rapidly, affecting individuals of all ages. The Deathworlders were fearful, and some were even turning against the alien medics, blaming them for bringing the sickness. "We need to work quickly," Kara urged, her voice strained with concern. "If this illness continues to spread, it could threaten our entire alliance." Returning to their village, Vellner and Kara gathered the remaining alien medics to discuss their findings. Dr. Xalan stood rigidly at the front of the group, his eyes narrowed with skepticism. "We should take our ships and leave this planet," he insisted. "Clearly, we're not welcome here." Vellner clenched his fists, fighting against the rising anger. "Leaving is not an option. We have a responsibility to help these people. Together, we can find a solution." Xalan sneered, his voice dripping with condescension. "Your optimism is naive, Vellner. This is a battle we cannot win." Kara stepped forward, her voice firm. "We need to pool our knowledge and resources. We have been successful before. If we work together, we can overcome this threat." Slowly, the other medics began to murmur in agreement. They might have doubted their mission, but they couldn't ignore the urgency of the situation. Vellner sensed a shift, a recognition of the power of their collaboration. "Let's combine our efforts," Vellner proposed. "We will analyze samples from the sick and look for a pattern. With both our advanced technology and the Deathworlders' understanding of their own bodies, we can discover what's happening." They set to work, gathering samples from the sick and studying them meticulously. Vellner scanned for pathogens while Kara consulted her herbal remedies, searching for a natural solution. Hours turned into days, and the workload began to take a toll on everyone. One evening, as they toiled late into the night, a breakthrough occurred. Vellner discovered a unique strain of bacteria in the samples. "This might be the cause of the illness," he exclaimed, excitement coursing through him. "But we need to find a way to combat it before it spreads further." Kara studied the data, her brow furrowing in concentration. "What if we create a combined treatment that targets this bacteria while also strengthening their immune systems? We could use the Elanti root to boost resistance and blend it with an antibacterial agent from our technology." Vellner nodded, feeling the adrenaline surge. "Yes, we can use the knowledge we've gained to create something effective." But just as hope began to bloom, their celebration was cut short. A loud commotion erupted outside. The villagers had gathered, and fear painted their faces. "They're blaming us," a man shouted, pointing at the alien medics. "You brought this illness to our world." A wave of anger washed over the crowd, and it became clear that the trust they had worked so hard to build was crumbling. Vellner stepped forward, raising his hands to calm the crowd. "Please, listen. We are here to help you. We have identified the cause of the illness, and together we can find a solution." Kara joined him, her voice steady. "We are not your enemies. We understand your pain, and we want to heal your people." But the crowd was not easily swayed. The whispers grew louder, and soon some villagers began to step back, creating a divide. Vellner felt a deep pit in his stomach. Their efforts to unite were being threatened by fear and misunderstanding. "We must show them our progress," he said, desperation creeping into his voice. If they see the treatments we are working on, maybe they will trust us again." Kara nodded, determination shining in her eyes. "We can invite them to see the healing process. Knowledge can help dispel fear." They set to work preparing a demonstration, carefully outlining the steps they would take to combat the illness. As they prepared, Vellner couldn't shake the feeling of unease that gripped his heart. They had come so far, but now it felt like everything was at stake. The next day, they gathered the villagers, showcasing their findings and explaining the combined treatment. As they spoke, some villagers listened intently, but others remained skeptical, their expressions hardened by fear. "This is our chance to prove ourselves," Vellner whispered to Kara, anxiety lacing his voice. "If we can just save one person." Together, they began the treatment, the villagers watching closely as Vellner administered the serum to a young girl who had been suffering from the illness. They waited with bated breath, hoping for a sign that their efforts would be enough to bridge the growing divide. As the girl's fever began to drop, hope flickered in the crowd, yet the specter of doubt loomed large. Vellner could sense the precariousness of their situation. The rising threat of the illness mirrored the fragile state of their alliance. Would they succeed in healing the Deathworlders, or would fear and mistrust tear them apart? Only time would reveal the true strength of their unity in the face of adversity. The healing process. As the days passed, the tension in the village remained palpable. Vellner and Kara worked tirelessly, administering treatments and monitoring the progress of those who had become ill. They spent countless hours discussing their findings, strategizing, and refining their approach. With each passing moment, the stakes grew higher, and the fear of failure weighed heavily on their shoulders. The young girl they had treated, Aislinn, slowly began to recover. Her energy returned, and her laughter filled the air like music. This small victory sparked a glimmer of hope among the villagers. But Vellner knew that this was just the beginning. To truly win the trust of the people, they needed to demonstrate that their methods could heal more than just one child. One morning, as the sun rose over the horizon, Vellner gathered the alien medics and the Deathworlders for a meeting. "We need to develop a mass treatment plan," he announced, determination etched on his face. "If we can treat more villagers simultaneously, it will show everyone that we are capable of healing." Kara added, "This is not about one way being better than the other. It's about collaboration. We can learn from each other." The villagers murmured among themselves, weighing their options. Vellner held his breath, hoping that his words would resonate. "Let us continue this journey together. We can create a future where both our peoples thrive." With that, the atmosphere shifted again. One by one, villagers began to step forward, eager to join in the healing process. The divide that had once threatened to tear them apart began to close, replaced by a sense of shared purpose. As night fell, the village felt alive with renewed hope. Laughter echoed in the air, and the fear that had gripped their hearts slowly faded. Vellner knew they still had a long way to go, but for the first time, he felt a glimmer of belief in their mission. Together, they were not just healing wounds. They were forging a bond that would transcend their differences. The threat of illness still loomed, but now they faced it united. In that moment, Vellner understood the true power of their alliance, the strength found in embracing both their unique abilities and shared humanity.